Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something really special. We're unpacking a super raw, deeply personal diary entry titled The 7-Day Breakthrough, From Fear to Fluency. We're going to follow one person's intense 7-day journey to learn English. But honestly, what we uncover here goes way beyond just picking up a new language. It's basically a masterclass in human psychology, building habits, and crushing those mental blocks that hold us back. I'm absolutely pumped to guide you through this, because the structured transformation we're about to see is something literally every single one of us can apply to our own lives. Let's get right into it.
Every word sounded difficult. Every mistake felt embarrassing. Just sit with that for a second. We really need to start right here to understand the emotional baseline of this whole journey. On day one, the author of our source material was basically paralyzed by this profound lack of confidence. Heavy confusion, intense fear. It wasn't just a matter of not knowing the vocabulary, it was an active, painful emotional state. The mere act of trying was just steeped in embarrassment.
Which brings up a really important question for all of us. Have you ever felt like reaching a goal was just entirely impossible? Like there's no way it's going to happen? Because that is exactly where the author was sitting. Think about it. Have you ever looked at a mountain you wanted to climb? Maybe it's learning a language, starting a business, getting fit, and felt like the distance between where you are right now and where you want to be is absolutely insurmountable? Well, this diary entry takes that exact universal feeling of impossibility and puts it right under a microscope for us.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the starting point, fear.
To really grasp this breakthrough, we've got to look at the vibe of day one. Picture this. The author is sitting there, totally alone in their room, struggling to form even the most basic of sentences. But you know what? The real enemy wasn't the grammar. It was comparison. Every time they saw a fluent speaker online, it made them feel so much smaller. But as we get to day 7, there's this massive shift. They realize this whole journey isn't actually about language at all. It's an internal battle, fought on 3 main fronts: fear versus confidence, excuses versus discipline, and quitting versus consistency. Every single time they opened that notebook, they were fighting these exact mental battles. And the most beautiful part of this realization? Slowly, day by day, consistency actually started winning.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 15-minute challenge.
So, this brings us to the absolute crucible of day 7. The day actually started like any other normal day. Standard routine practice. The author opens their notebook, revises some old words, practices speaking in front of a camera. But they knew that to really grow, they had to push way beyond that safe routine. So they set a challenge: speak English continuously for 15 whole minutes in front of the camera. Now, if you've ever tried speaking a foreign language or presenting on a topic you aren't super confident about, 15 minutes feels like an absolute eternity. The rule was simple but honestly terrifying. Speak for 15 minutes, no matter how many mistakes happen. Keep going. Do not stop.
And this brilliantly illustrates a reality we so often try to hide. Progress is incredibly messy. The author is completely real with us here. Those first few minutes of the 15-minute challenge, they were terrible. They got stuck, they completely forgot their vocabulary, they found themselves repeating the exact same words over and over again. It was the absolute messy reality of pushing way past your comfort zone. It wasn't pretty, and it sure wasn't perfect. But then, right in the middle of those messy 15 minutes, something clicked. The author had this massive mindset shift. They finally let go of that old toxic habit of trying to sound perfect, which, by the way, is exactly what causes panic and mental blocks in the first place. Instead, they focused entirely on just expressing their thoughts. The exact moment they stopped overthinking every single word and entirely let go of the need for perfection, everything changed. Their confidence immediately spiked, and not because their English was magically perfect, but because they completely changed the goal.
Moving right along to Section 3, when fear finally disappears.
So the crucial point is, because of that mindset shift, the panic was suddenly just gone. The author realized they were actually speaking in much longer sentences without stopping or translating everything in their head first. The mental fog had lifted, leaving room for real communication. And this leads us to a massive redefinition of the goal itself.
This is kind of the biggest secret nobody talks about, according to our source. Fluency doesn't begin when your grammar becomes perfect. No. Fluency begins when fear disappears. It's the total absence of the fear of making mistakes. It's this psychological threshold you cross way before you ever cross the technical one.
And you know what the incredible thing is about crossing that psychological threshold? It becomes totally visible to the outside world. The author notes that people around them actually started to see the difference. They're getting that external validation. People are noticing the improved pronunciation, sure, but way more importantly, they are noticing the skyrocketing confidence and this entirely new mindset. The internal change became so powerful that it physically manifested in how the author carried themselves.
All right, Section 4, Discipline over Fleeting Motivation. Let's move to and see how this builds when the author reviews their own progress, because this overarching formula for rapid, life-altering growth becomes incredibly clear here. Sitting down at night to watch their video recordings from day 1 through day 7, they stated that for the first time in years, they actually felt proud. Not because they magically became perfectly fluent in 7 days, but simply because they showed up. The contrast on camera was sharp. I mean, it didn't even feel like the same person. Day 1 was nervous, quiet, and terrified of judgment. Day 7? Still learning, still making mistakes, for sure, but totally unafraid to grow. The fear of judgment had been completely replaced by a hunger for progress.
We can actually see this internal shift clear as day in the English words the author chose to write down at the end of day 7. Look at this list: discipline, confidence, progress, challenge, consistency. These aren't just random grammar exercises or household nouns, right? These are the actual tools of mental transformation. The language they were learning had fundamentally shifted to mirror the personal growth they were experiencing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the core lesson the author extracts from this entire week. It's profound. Think about it. Most people quit right after motivation disappears, because motivation is just an emotion. It's fleeting, and it will always eventually fade away. But this whole series taught the author a deeply powerful lesson. Discipline is greater than, and honestly far more important than, motivation. Showing up when you don't want to, when it's super messy, and when you are actively making mistakes, that is exactly where the real transformation is forged. As the author reflected on their journey, one single sentence just stayed in their mind the entire night. Small daily improvements create massive results. Just let that sink in for a moment. It wasn't one giant leap. It was 7 days of tiny, uncomfortable 15-minute improvements. Sitting alone, facing the camera, fighting the fear. And those small, daily acts, they compounded into a massive, life-altering shift in identity.
The diary entry ends with incredible anticipation. 1 week is officially in the books, but it is really only the beginning. The author tells us that tomorrow an even bigger challenge starts, a harder level, more conversations, more confidence, and a lot more growth. They are practically begging the reader to tune in for day 8 because they are just so fired up to push further. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to apply to whatever mountain you are currently facing in your own life. If you can conquer the fear of day 1 and build the discipline of day 7, what will your day 8 look like? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I genuinely hope it sparks the beginning of your very own daily breakthrough.